Can't nobody touch us.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Doug Hopkins, a living legend. He's done over 17,000 transactions, just shy of 500 last year, and did over 40 last month. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm Steve Trang, founder of the Offer Fast Homes app, the only MLS for off-market wholesale properties, and I help entrepreneurs create businesses that support their life, their family, and their goals through mentorship. I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. If you want to be one of those millionaires, drop me a message on Instagram at steve.trang. If you're excited for today's show, please give me a wave, give me a thumbs up. And as a friendly reminder, I do not charge a dime for the show. I don't make any money doing this. So here's all I ask is what it costs for you to listen to this show. If you get value today, please tell a friend. You can share this episode right now, tag a friend below, or tell them your best takeaway from the show later on. That way we can all grow together. And this is a live show, so please ask your questions for Doug to answer. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this.
All right. So when did you get into real estate?
I got into real estate in 1993, actually. I was going to school. I was going to Arizona State University, and I was selling cable door to door. And a buddy of mine that I was selling cable with graduated and decided to become a loan officer.
Okay.
So about that time, rates had come way down, and he was doing the same thing I was doing, except he was doing loans, and my commissions were $50 and his were a couple of grand. And so he showed me his paycheck, and we compared paychecks, and I'm like, all right, how do I get into this? How do I get?
That's like the Wolf of Wall Street scene.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to do this. So
Yeah.
I quit my job. I went and worked. I had to do a 30 or 45-day training. Got trained, try to figure out what I was doing. I knew nothing. I was just a young kid just trying to figure out what the heck a loan origination point was and all the escrow terms. I had no idea what any of it was. The day that I started, rates had jumped back up, and that was the end of refinancing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so they said
it's a very short window.
It was horrific. Yeah, and so I was like, all right, what do I do now? And they said, well, you got to go out and hit all the real estate companies and try to get business that from realtors that are finding people houses. So that's what I did, and it was all commission based, and I was down to my last dollar. I memean, it was bad. Sold. I had a bunch of baseball card collections. I had to sell my baseball card collection just to pay rent, and wound up meeting a couple that worked at Realty Executives that said, we're not going to use you as a loan officer, but we'd really like to hire you as a real estate agent. And I said, you know what, I'm not doing very well at this mortgage loan officer thing. So I'm like, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. And so I did, and wound up just doing 4 deals.
Just snap your fingers, get your real estate license.
Yeah, well, I did. I got it took a while. Back in the day, and I think you still can do it now. You can do it in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I did it in 3 weeks. I didn't have the money to put myself
That's
through
not scary
school.
at all.
No, not at all. Right. And I didn't have the money to put it through. My parents thank God they paid for me to go, because I was literally couldn't come up with the $350 I think that I went to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
When the day I got my license, I went in. They're like, oh, it's going to cost you like $500 to get your license and your lockbox key and this that, and the other. And the people I was working with, I turned to them. I'm like, I don't have it, and they're like, okay, we'll pay for it, and you can give it to us on your first.
Oh, they really liked you.
So yeah, and it turned out really well. In fact, I still work with them today. They're in their 80s. Bob and Mary Millard. Yeah, I still work with them to this day. They refer me a lot of business actually still.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay, so 94, you get
94,
licensed.
I get licensed.
You're doing deals.
Doing deals. Met a couple of investors that were buying houses. I got really good at finding investment properties, and I was making a bunch of money for these investors because I was finding VA repos and HUD foreclosures, but I never went down to the courthouse steps because I was always told, it's like the mafia down there. And you go down there, they'll break your legs. They won't let you bid. They're going to bid you up. Don't even bother going down there. It's crazy. So I never did. I found other ways to find houses.
Yeah, what I was always told is the Good Old Boys Network.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of truth to that. There was people would if they came down there and they didn't know you, they would bid you up just on purpose and make it so that you had a really hard time buying a house. So
right.
They'd take it, they'd take a little bit of a hit, on their commissions or whatever their overage was going to be, and just to make sure that you didn't come down there, because if you started making money down there, then all of a sudden you'd be there every day, and they didn't want that.
Yeah. So at which point then did you start going down?
So I sold my first $1 million house. It was like $1.1 million, and I got a commission, 3% commission, so it was like 33,000 and change. My buddy had a bar in his house, and I'm like, man, hey, can I come over and take a picture of your bar, because I want to give it to my contractor. I think your bar is really cool, and I want to build one in my house. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to be home tomorrow. I'm going down to the auctions. I'm going to go check it out down there. I'm like, hey, do you mind if I come with you? And he said, sure. I'm going to Tiffany and Bosco down here in Phoenix, and so I'm like, I went over there, met him for a cup of coffee. We drove down together. I saw this house go. I'm trying to remember the street, Revere Street, and it was going. I'm like, man, that thing just sold for, I think it was like $68,000. It was maybe it was $68,000. And so I'm like, that house is worth like $135,000. Like I know that area, I know, and I was like, man. I go,
so this is 99.
This is 99, and somebody had a sheet, and it showed me the square footage and everything else on it, and I'm like, wow. I'd never seen a house go that cheap in that area. And so I said, hey, I went up to the guy who bought it. I go, excuse me, sir, what do you plan on doing with that house? And he goes, what the heck do you want to know for? And I said, oh, I just want to know because, maybe I might have a buyer for it. I work with investors. He goes, were you bidding against me? I go, no, I wasn't bidding at all. I just came in here to watch. Who are you with? And I said, with that guy over there. He's like, all right, $10,000, you can have it. $10,000 over what I paid for it, and you can have it. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll write up a contract. I can close in 30 days. And he goes, no. He goes, you need to pay for it in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't have the cash to pay you in 24 hours. And he goes, well, just go get hard money. And I said, all right. What's hard money? I had no idea what hard money is. And he's like, here, gives me a guy's card and says, here, go down. It was Scott Gould over at RLS there. So I called him up, and he said, yeah, I'm available. Come on down. So I went down there, and I was like, all right, I'm going to need 20% down. It's going to be 18% interest.
20% down, 18%,
yeah,
18% interest.
Correct.
It's a little different.
Yes.
Than today.
Yeah. So it was, not much, but it's changing. The times are changing for sure. So I'm like, man, I don't have the 20% to put down either. It was still $78,000. You're still going to be $15,000 and change. So I'm like, huh. I'm like, I don't have that money. He goes, oh, okay, well, wholesale it then. And I said, huh? What does that mean? What does wholesaling mean?
You got a quick education.
Yeah, it was all within like a 3-hour period, and he goes, well, just you can buy this thing for $78,000. Go find somebody that'll buy it for more, and you can collect a check tomorrow. And a light bulb went off in my head, it was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard.
The clouds cleared.
Yeah, it was
the
just
angel
like
was
that.
singing.
Yeah. So I literally called my dad on the way home, and I said, my life just changed.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I just went down. I saw these auctions. It was amazing. These people were bidding on houses, and they were going so cheap. And I met these hard money lenders, and they could could close it in 24 hours, and it's insane. It's so fast-paced and amazing. And my dad just said, just be careful, Doug. Maybe you're doing pretty good at what you're doing. Just stay doing that. And I'm like, no, Dad, you don't understand. This is amazing. I know what I'm doing here. And so anyway,
how old were you at that time?
I was 28.
Okay.
So wound up calling everybody I knew that had money. I'm like, I got this great deal, and I wound up talking to a buddy of mine that was a vice president of a bank, and he was looking for rentals. We went over and checked it out together. He said, how much is it? And I said, $82,000. And so I tacked $4,000 on it. He goes, yeah, this looks good. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So I called Scott down at RLS, and I said, hey, I got a guy that wants to buy it. We went down together. We did all the paperwork, got the checks, sent them off to the trustee company, and I had a check in my hand, and 24 hours later for $4,000.
Also, on your first experience at the auction.
First experience at the auction.
$4K.
Yeah.
That's not common.
No. So that was And the guy that I bought it from, I wound up working with his company for years. Sold a ton of houses for him. I was their East Valley guy. So I was in Mesa. I lived in Mesa and Gilbert at the time.
So you were kind of like what we call today the disposition guy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's what they called it back then.
Well, back then, so it was times were a lot different back then. Going from '99. I worked from them from '99 to about 2007 or so, 2007 or 8. And basically, they would call me up. Information wasn't as readily available as it is now.
Right.
So you literally, a lot of the stuff that you had to do, the research, you had to actually have people go down to the courthouse, get the documents, and make copies of them, and then track them yourself. So a lot of people had no idea what was on the docket to sell that day.
Yeah.
And you're literally bidding against maybe 5 other people, and stuff was selling at 40, 50, 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, it was a great time. I mean, It was insane. And it was only $1,000. You had to have $1,000 cash.
Oh, really?
Instead of $10,000 as it is now.
Okay.
And if you made a mistake, it's like, I lost $1,000 on this one, but I made $30 on this one.
Yeah.
So it was no big deal. Now you lose a couple of $10,000 checks, and that's not fun. Plus the spreads are not anywhere close to what they used to be.
No, that definitely got ruined.
Yeah.
I think, and we'll talk about later on, partially by your company.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So basically what happened is during that time, I would drive houses, and then I would give them the number that I would pay for the home. And and most of those are on the East Valley. So I was the East Valley guy. They had other people for the West Valley, and then I had first shot for driving them. And there was no pictures. I wasn't taking pictures or anything. I was just literally giving them a report of what I thought it was worth, because I was I had extensive background as being a real estate agent, and what I thought it was worth, what I would be willing to pay for it. And then if they came in under that number, I had first dibs at it. And it was never a set number, right? It was, I would say, okay, I'll pay up to $250,000 for it. They'd get it for $110, and they'd charge me $140. And it was always, every day was always like, oh, come on, man, you got this for $110. Can I get it for $120 at least, or something like that? But so it was a lot of haggling. Back and forth, but that worked out pretty well until things got bad in 2007.
So at that time, you're driving the properties, you got first shot. Are you selling it to the investors that you were working with previously?
Yeah, so I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of investors. I worked at Realty Executives at the time, and then in 2004, I wound up opening up Red Brick Realty and opening up my own brokerage. The great thing about that was a lot of people that were investors, that were also real estate agents, came over because they wanted to have first shot at all the stuff that I got. So it worked out really well. We were buying, I don't know, 30 a month, 35 a month, something like that. And I'd sell most of them in-house. I built a building over on Higley and Southern, and it's still there. And we had everything under one roof: mortgage company, appraiser, brokerage, and insurance, and title, all under one roof. And literally, I wouldn't leave the building in order to sell it. Everything that I sold was right there. Everyone that was in the business that was doing any sort of volume that in East Valley was right there in my office.
Right.
So it was pretty cool. I mean, the energy was electric every day. The going to work was amazing. I would go into work at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and wouldn't leave until 8:30 at night. It was just awesome. And it's not because I wanted to work all day. It's because it was awesome just being there and being around everybody. I mean, it was just the culture there was fantastic. Money was flowing, houses were flowing. It was awesome.
So you're doing like 30 a month?
30, 35 a month, yeah.
Before the slowdown?
Yes.
And then what kind of fees were you tacking on?
There was no set fees at that point. So it could be anywhere from $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. In 2005, in 2005, I bought a lot of the stuff had dried up at trustee sale because, stuff was going up so high, and it was not hard to sell your house. So I was literally buying houses. I bought 365 houses, 360, I think, off of MLS in 2005. of which I would normally pay full price. I was buying most of these first day on the market. I was manually going into MLS every single day between in between '04 and '06, and anything that came up brand new, I was checking literally every 10 minutes, manually. And then if I saw one that look, a lot of realtors didn't know how to price houses. They were using comps from 6 months ago where they didn't realize that it was going up $10,000 a month.
Right.
So you have a $110,000 house and they put it at full price, and that thing's worth 170, 160, 170 because nothing is closed in there for the last 6-7 months. So they're using their old comps. And then but you're just looking in the subdivision. A lot of realtors didn't know how to comp out a house or price out a house because it was going up so fast. Yeah. And by the time it would close, it'd go up another 10 or 15 grand. So I'd wait right before close, and then I would wholesale it, and I was making probably average of $20,000 a deal.
Wow.
And plus commission.
So when you're talking about slowdown, for most people, the slowdown is 2007 through 2009. But for you, the slowdown of the auctions, was that the same for you, or was it different?
So the auctions slowed down starting for me in '05.
Right, because so for you, it was a different challenge.
Yes, correct. So I completely flipped. See, I think people ask me, what do you think your number one reason for being as successful as you are? And I think it's the ability to adapt to what's going around out there. And the reason I've been able to adapt is because I always have my finger on the pulse of the market of what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that being a real estate agent has helped me tremendously figure out, what's going on in the market. Being an owner of a company, a real estate company, and seeing the numbers and seeing the trends and what's selling and what's sitting and how come we were 20% down this month, or how come we're 20% up this month, or and see what's happening with interest rates and whatever. I'm always constantly seeing what's happening.
And I'm glad you're saying that, because one of the original reasons why I started this show was to kind of like unite, the realtor and the wholesaler community. I think that's been a massive failure. I think that dream's died. But that was one of the reasons why I started the show. Mm-hmm. And so I think, realtors need to open their eyes to wholesaling, which obviously you do. But I think wholesalers need to look at potentially getting a license as well. And this is one of the very many reasons, right? Well, you have a pulse on the market. You can see what's happening, and you know the neighborhoods. You know the terrain.
Not only that, but if you're going to be marketing at all, you get to monetize it, right?
Right.
There's several times where I can only, they want, they owe so much. I'm only going to make $3 or $4 grand on this wholesale deal if I'm able to get it down. But it's a $300,000 house. If I can sell this thing for market, I'm going to make $9 grand.
Right.
So even if I have somebody else do it for me, I'll make 50% of the profit, or the commission, and you can't really collect that if you're not a licensed real estate agent.
Right.
So I was, with the amount of leads that I have coming in, I want to be able to monetize those leads in other ways if I'm not able to buy them, and we do quite a few listings. I think we did 68 listings last year in Arizona, and I think another 40-something in California. And the ones in California, the commissions are ridiculous.
Astronomical.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. When I first went out to California, seeing these little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 680 square foot houses selling for $500,000 or $600,000, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this numbers still are just. That's why I let my partner Damon out in California. I let him handle that, because I can't do it with seeing those numbers. It just being from Arizona and knowing the Arizona market, I just don't know how he does it, honestly.
So, did your radio ads start? Around what year did your radio ads start?
Radio, we started in we did radio ads in 2013. Somewhere around when Property Wars was going on.
Okay, then we'll hold off on that then. Okay, so you transition to MLS.
Yes.
Right, and then you do well there, and then we have another shift.
Yes. So then we have another shift, and nobody knew where the bottom was. Right. I mean, 07, everything. I made 1/10 the income in 2007 as I did in 2006. And
you want to put perspective, what the numbers were?
Over well over $2 million to about $200,000.
So a slight change in lifestyle.
It's amazing. Sometimes, no matter how much money you make, you still live the same way, and you still spend the same way.
It all gets spent somehow.
Yeah, or the government takes a bigger piece, and it just feels that way. So, and then all of a sudden, there was tons of houses going to foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I didn't know what to do. So we were buying our fair share, and at this point I'd broken away from the other company, and I was trying to figure out how to make my niche. They were trying to make it pretty hard on me, and
to get back in the auction.
Yeah, and I finally I think they relented because I was persistent, and. What happened was Queen Creek, before it was Santan Valley, Queen Creek was devastated.
Oh.
It just was devastated. It was a ghost town out there.
Streets filled with signs.
Just whole subdivisions.
Yeah.
It was horrible. I mean, houses that were selling for $230,000 now were being sold off for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. Nobody was buying them.
Yeah.
And it was driving me nuts because I saw so much potential and opportunity there, because I was always a Pinal County guy. I was always the guy doing the Pinal County sales for the other company. So I knew Pinal County, and especially Queen Creek and Apache Junction.
Yeah.
Because I was an East Mesa guy, it was easy to get to both. I wound up going to Scott Gould from RLS, and I sat down with him, and I said, "Listen, I need some money." He goes, "I'm not financing anything out in Queen Creek. Not happening." He goes, "I lost millions out there."
Oh.
And I said, "I'm telling you right now, look at these numbers." I go, the replacement cost. What's the replacement cost on these? They're selling for $20 a square foot, $20, $30, $40 a square foot. What's the replacement cost on these? It's insane. So, he goes, let me make some phone calls, and I'll get back to you. And he goes, "You know what? You got it. You got something here, I think."
Yeah.
He goes, I'll do a few for you, see how they go. And I said, okay. So I went down to the auctions, and I bought 5, and I wholesaled them all. And I took one down myself, which I still have as a rental, and sold off the other 4. The people. So it was crazy. So you'd have a model match with somebody who was still in it that owed $180,000 on their $230,000 house. So they're listed at $180,000. We buy it for $60,000, and we list it for $110,000. And of course, the $110,000 sells.
Of course.
So what happened was everyone who was stuck in these big houses, they would say, "Okay, I'm going to just buy this other one over here for $80,000 less than what I owe, and then just give up the other house."
Right.
And that happened quite a bit. And
so you're saying you might have been at fault for this whole short sale?
I was not at fault. No. I mean, I was buying at 60 and putting it where the market was, which I thought was like 110, 120.
Gotcha.
I wasn't the one who said, "Okay, you still owe me $180,000 on that loan." So I was just going where the market was.
Right.
So you had a bunch of them up here, and they couldn't compete with the ones down here, and we would make a rip on each one.
Right.
And it started going and going, and then it caught it really caught fire. I wound up hooking up with a Canadian investment company, and they put together a fund, and we wound up going.
Can-Am or different?
No, it was I can't remember the name of their fund right now, but he wound up selling it. I think they tripled their money on it. It was,
I believe it.
It was crazy.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I'm showing houses for $85K.
Yeah.
Back down in Santan Valley.
Yeah, they sold everything. Did an unbelievable job. We were able to we bought them all for them, and we sold them all for them, and managed them all too. So it was pretty cool little project.
So you're working with Scott. You're building out Santan Valley. Eventually, I imagine you just take over all East Valley.
So basically, what happened was there was up at one point going 1,500 houses going a day. There was no physical way for me to check them all every day. I was I was going nuts. So I came up with the idea of going to my investors that I was selling to and saying, "Hey guys, I'm going to give you the list, and the list. That was the big word back then. If you had the list, of what was going the next day, that was, again, information was still very hard to come by.
Yep.
And so I gave it to my investors, and I said, I'm going to give you the list. You tell me what you'll pay for it. And the problem was everyone's bidding on the same houses. So then I had to come up with a thing of going, okay, whoever's highest wins, and how that goes. Anyway, it got so crazy. And then when you buy it and you sell it for a different amount, then this person got mad at this person for getting a good deal because he was higher. And then I'm selling it for $10,000 over, and then everyone's pissed off. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make a flat fee. I'm going to make this a flat fee. And it started out at $5,000, and then it came down to $3,000. And nobody else had done that. Everyone else is making $20,000, $30,000 rips on every single property.
Yeah.
And so I decided to just do a $3,000 flat fee. Well, that went haywire, right? So everybody. I mean, I had people coming in, 10 people a day coming into my office to sign up, and I would give them the list.
You were the first one to go to 3,000?
I was the first one to go to 3,000. I went down to, we had bought already 20 houses in the morning auctions, and I had to go down for one other auction. And I walked in because I had nobody else to cover. And I walked into a lot of very upset people, and I sat down at the table, and they said, so, Doug, seems like you're doing pretty good, huh? You're buying everything. I said, well, I'm trying, aren't you guys? And he goes, yeah. How does it feel to single-handedly ruin trustee sales?
Yeah.
And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, this flat fee garbage that you got. Now all of our clients are leaving over to go to you. And I'm like, yeah, sounds pretty cool to me.
And you walked out of that meeting unscathed?
Oh no. There was a couple times where I they were pretty heated. You go in, you're a disruptor, and some people like the things the way they are, especially when they're going good, and when somebody comes in and takes their cheese, they're not very happy about it.
I mean, they're doing 20K rips.
Yeah. And
now there's zero.
Yeah. Yeah. And their clients are jumping over to us, and so it was a pretty crazy time, and we were buying. I mean, I think our record was 34 in one day, and that was just in Maricopa County. It was, and then Pinal County would always have, we were buying probably 5, 6, 7 a day down there too. It was an unbelievable time, and then all of a sudden coming in 2011, 12, the big corporations started coming in, or the big. iBuyers or whatever you want to call them came in.
Yeah, those hedge funds, they definitely changed the game 100%.
Yes, they did, yeah.
So this service, this 3K bid service, that eventually turned into posted properties.
Yes, correct.
And then you guys were national.
Well, it wasn't national, but we were in.
Or you guys were like on CNBC or whatever.
Oh yeah. So we were. Yeah, they would come in. Yeah, we were on a lot of different. We were in the Wall Street Journal, and
that must have blown up business.
Yeah, so I was, it was, and it did, and then we moved out to California and got picked up by a hedge fund that asked us. We had built a software that was able to scrape all the websites and get information in real time. Drop bids where everyone's making a bunch of money, which means it was scheduled at the auction to go for $200,000, and at the last second they dropped it to $110 just because the bank didn't want to keep it anymore. And it was awesome. Yeah. Yes, that's how I bought my house. The house that I bought that I lived in. I bought it. It was a $3 million house that dropped at the last second to $780,000, and I bought it, and I lived in it for a while. My ex-wife can thank me for that. She got to take that up.
So she benefited too.
She benefited, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you started posted properties.
Yeah.
That did well, and at some point, property wars.
Yeah. So during the late. I think it was 2012. So we were still going pretty good in posted properties, and I got a phone call from a producer in New York, and they wanted to do a real estate foreclosure show, and I'm like, okay, and they said, well, we were going to do it, and we have it scheduled, and we went down to do the auction. I think there was 12 houses that were scheduled to go, and you bought 10 of them. So we realized we don't have have a picture or a show without you. And I said, well, I'm not doing it. I said, why? I'm like, because I don't want, by that time, Storage Wars was like really, really popular on TV. And I'm like, and I heard all the people that were going down to storage auctions now. And I'm like, I don't want a show going on because I don't want more competition coming down here. And so I stopped answering their phone calls. And he called me from somebody else's phone one night. It was about 5:30, 6:30 at night. And he called me from somebody else's phone because I wouldn't pick up his phone call anymore. And he's like, just please give me a shot. Just meet me tomorrow morning. And, and let's just go out with you. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At least we have you on camera if you decide to do it. And I said, well, what the heck? I'll meet you. So I went out, and the only reason I did it is I was just got a divorce. I'm like, maybe it'd be a cool way to pick up chicks. That's really one of the only reasons I did it, because I didn't want anybody else going down there. So I wound up meeting up with them, and I literally just said, hey, just stay out of my way. I'm just going to go look at houses. So I went out, looked at houses, made sure they were vacant or occupied, and if I could get in and take pictures, I did. If I couldn't get in, I'd make notes of that. And that's all I did for like 3 hours. And they're like, so this is what you do? I'm like, yeah, that's it. I'm just going in and checking out houses. And like, well, what about, what about the houses? I'm like, I'm calling them the numbers to the guys down at the courthouse. Like, so what about the interaction with like all the other guys and stuff? I'm like, yeah, it's not really too much of that. Yeah. And well, we want to try something. Let's meet at this house over here, and let's have you all meet over here. And so I'm like, all right, so cool. We met at a house. I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? And they said, all right. I'm like, this is pretty weird, huh, having these cameras, but yeah. So this house on Saratoga in Gilbert. That was the first house. It's never been seen on TV, but that's the first one. Mm-hmm. They said, all right, well, you guys bid on this live. Well, I owned a house 3 doors down as a rental. I really wanted this house. And at the time, it was a house in Gilbert. If you can imagine, this house in Gilbert is 1,312 square feet, tile stucco house, built in 2000, I don't know, it was early 2000s. And it was worth $118,000, if you can imagine that. It's probably worth $260 to $280 right now. Mm-hmm. So I was opening it up at $85,000. No, it was less than that. I'm sorry. I figured I was going to buy it at $85,000. It was opening up at like $58,000 or something like that. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm gonna buy this house. I'll probably go up to $85,000 on it. It's, it's a Gilbert neighborhood, should be pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I really want it as a rental. So it goes up to 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. I'm like, $80,000. I'm like, these guys aren't even dropping off. So 81, 82, 83. I'm like, there's no room to wholesale it anymore. I got to take it down myself to use it as a rental now. Yeah. 90, 91, 92, 93. And I'm like, I'm looking around. Finally, John and one of the other guys drop out. And there's just me and this guy, Scott. I didn't realize when you have the cameras running how much people hate to lose. They don't want to look weak on TV. And who knows who's going to see this. So neither of us wanted to lose. I wound up winning that house at $100,000 for a house that was worth $118,000.
Yeah, winning.
And it was occupied. So I had no idea what it looked like inside. Yeah. And I turned around to Scott and I threw my papers in the air and I started screaming at him and going, "What the heck are you doing?" And cussing and screaming and everything else. And then I turned around to the producer. I go, "Is that what you wanted to see?" Like, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He's like, "Dude, you're hired. We want you on there." And that's how I got hired on Property.
That was your audition.
That was it. And I was just messing around, Yeah.
So, for someone that's looking at this on the outside, outside looking in, how was having a reality show? Did that impact your business in any way?
Oh, absolutely did. Yeah. So I think it gives you a couple of different things, pluses and minuses. You get you have a little bit of a target on your back. Mm-hmm. I had to read some really horrific things about me, on Twitter, and people that hide behind there and say, "Oh my God, look at this guy! Is this, that, and the other."
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah. And but for the most part, it's been a really good. Gives you a certain level of credibility, and it's given me an opportunity to help a lot of people as well. And some opportunities I wouldn't normally had before, doing the commercials and doing stuff that, and getting out of my box. I was never the head guy. I was always very shy when it came to being on camera or doing any public speaking. The fact that if I had to do this back 10 years ago, not a chance. I would never have come on the show, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, not that I wouldn't want to, because I'm having a good time talking to you, but I wouldn't have been able to. My voice would have been shaking. My whole body would have been shaking. My face would have been red. I'd be sweating a lot more than I am right now. So it would have been a lot worse. But that helped me get over it, to do a lot of public speaking and going on and doing. They wanted me to be the face of Property Wars, and so I got to do all the commercials and going on all the news shows, and which was really intimidating. Walking into a studio and Fox 10 or ABC, doing a lot. NBC, I was on all the channels, Channel 3, and getting interviewed live on TV. I was scared to death, but the more repetition, the more you do stuff, the easier it becomes, and so it's got a lot easier. Still get a little nervous here and there, but
this led to advertising on TV.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So I figured, I went into a marketing agency in California trying to figure out what next, right? It's hard to buy houses. You got all the big behemoths in town with billions of dollars, eating up stuff at 100% margins. They're basically paying what it's worth. And I'm like, what's next? So I walked into a marketing firm, and they said, well, you're on a national TV show. You should be marketing your name. I would create a company, DougHopkins.com, and start going direct to seller. And I'm like, that sounds like a really good idea. And so I did that, and that was probably before PPC, or I didn't even know what PPC was. In fact, I'm still pretty new at that stuff. But we just started doing commercials and on radio and also on TV, and we had a really small budget, and it was very scary because I'd never really had to put out a budget before to bring in business. It was always there. You just go down to the auctions. There wasn't a marketing budget. It was
that's what was available.
That's it. So spending $10,000 a month or something like that, but to me at the time was like, I don't want to. That's a lot of money, and $10,000 a month in TV doesn't get you much.
No.
So, but I started working. I was like, oh well, shoot, I got 3 deals out of it, and those 3 deals made 40 or 50, and then next you just keep going and going and going and going, and so now we're at the budget that we're at now. But that's how that all started.
So let's talk about what you got going on today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've done amazing what you've done in your career.
Yeah, thank you.
So right now, is TV and radio your biggest source?
So right now, we do a little bit of everything. Radio, TV obviously is the biggest. It's the most expensive, but radio is pretty good, is pretty big as well. We do some Facebook, not much.
Branded?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And
because you already have the name for radio and TV.
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
And we're also doing PPC, and we do some mailers, not a lot. Yeah. We get a lot of stuff that comes in on the internet that gives false information, but they just want to. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to see what their house is worth, or they don't want to give us their address or their email address or something like that. So we're trying to chase them down too and see if we can get them to sell their house as well. So we do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, but if you were 80-20 rule, right? I think it applies to everything.
Yeah.
So 80% of your business is coming from.
I can't say 80% of it's coming there, but 65 has come from commercials.
Commercials.
20 from radio and the rest from all the other sources.
Okay.
It's funny because they all kind of go together.
Right.
When I wasn't doing PPC, I'm like, why would I do PPC? I'm like, well, then I figured out why I needed to do PPC because everybody's advertising over my name. I would get so upset. I put out, you Google Doug Hopkins, and then all of a sudden you got 6 different, guys that are all over me. One of them, a few times they put, we pay more than Doug Hopkins. And so I had to call them up. They were cool about it, but I'm like, hey, you can't do that, bro. You got to get that off of there. And so they did. It was a funny story. We joke about it now.
Yeah.
But there's still some people that put my name on there, and we've got it kicked off. But it is what it is. I don't blame them for doing it. It's a good way to try to leapfrog or leap onto somebody else's advertising.
For sure.
And so I had to do it myself in order to, be there as well, because a lot of people will click on those ads instead of going to the organic search,
right,
or the number one. So it was frustrating at first, but we have to do it. We're like, if we don't do it, our conversions go down tremendously.
Yeah. So you're doing TV and radio, PPC, some direct mail, some Facebook ads. It's got to be pretty tough when you first get in. You said 10,000 was a tough check to write.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what kind of checks are you writing right now for TV?
80.
80.
Yeah, that's
in both markets.
Nope, that's just in Phoenix.
That's just in Phoenix. So it's got to be a lot more.
Yeah, in LA it's 100 and I think it's 120 a month.
I mean, it's not double.
Yeah. And it's climbed. It's climbed from there. Those are crazy numbers, but I didn't start out that way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't start out that way. A lot of people can't relate to that, and I like to talk about how people can be successful in this day and age. And I see the guys that got me so focused, and the reason I even know who you are is because of Carlos and a lot of the other guys that have made their way from nothing and now are big deal and doing multi-million-dollar businesses, and they started from nothing. I'm sure that I'm paying a lot more for my advertising than they are from theirs, and they're figuring it out, and I really admire that. I respect that, and it got me. It's gotten me to the point of I want to figure out how to do that. Mm-hmm. I know how to spend a bunch of money and make the phones ring.
Yeah.
Right? I know how to do that. I don't know how to spend a little bit of money and make the phones ring, or try to do the PPC stuff or a lot of the other stuff that they're doing, and just their systems and stuff that they got going. I mean, the Keigleys of the world and all these guys that are doing unbelievable businesses. I have tremendous respect for them, and I didn't want to be the guy that got. I saw during the birth of Posted Properties and going forward, me passing by a lot of my mentors and people that I thought were untouchable, and they had unbelievable businesses.
Yeah.
And I felt myself getting stagnant and being just being that guy. It's like, here's the cycle, and I was going to be part of that cycle. I had my time, and now I'm going to go back. I mean, a lot of the guys that I was working with back in the early 2000s are out of the business.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be that guy. I love real estate, man. This is not work for me. We were talking earlier, that about how much time you put into the job, and I eat, live, breathe, and sleep this stuff. I love it. I love making deals happen. I just made a deal happen this morning before I'm coming in here that I'm going to get paid $2,500 on. And I worked on that thing harder than if I had probably gotten a $30,000 rep, just because I want to make that deal. It was a challenge for me,
right?
And I wanted to make it happen. And Pace and Greg were able to make that happen for me because they know a lot more about certain things that I do. Creative financing, subject to stuff. I don't know anything about that. It's something I need to learn. If I want to stay relevant, you got to keep on learning in this business. And if you don't keep on learning, and staying relevant, you'll get passed by. And I don't want that to happen.
And I think you mentioned something to me yesterday where we're talking. Sharing a stage with Carlos. You looked at him, and that gave you a kick in the butt. He didn't know it.
He didn't know it. Nope. I haven't even told him this story.
Yeah.
We were on last year. We were on a stage for a Phoenix RIA, and I was up there, and he went after. I had just gotten what do you do to get stuff? I'm like, hey, I still go into people's living rooms now. On the east side, I'm still going out there meeting with people. I love doing it. And so they'll have my phone guys set an appointment. I'll go out there and I'll try to get the deal done. And I was explaining to him how I differ from my buyers, from the open doors and offer pads and Zillows, and I'm like, I actually go in their living room and try to make a personal connection with them, and and give them an offer right there on the spot. That's a real offer. I'm not going to go back and try to get it down or that. I was explaining that on stage, and then he comes up, next, and he's like, Doug's an OG, man. He's old school. He goes, I don't even go in the house. I just do it all over the phone. That guy's closed over the phone, and we're closing this amount of deals. And I'm like, first of all, I went to myself. I said, what the heck is an OG? Like, I had no idea what an OG was. Original gangster, I believe, is a term now. So, and then I'm like, that was pretty impressive, and so. It was cool, and went home, and that's night I couldn't sleep. I'm like, how the heck is he doing that? Where he's getting the phone to ring, and he doesn't even have to walk into the house, and he's getting a contract without even seeing it. Like, what? Like, it was completely foreign to me. So I started following him, and then that led me to you. It led me to a couple other guys, and I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. I know nothing about it, and made me join a mastermind group, and a Collective Genius is a mastermind group from across the country. And I walked in there last March, so a little less than a year ago. It'll be a year in March, and met a bunch of guys that were doing a lot of this stuff. And I did my presentation in there, and I'm like, I have no idea what everyone else is doing. This is what I'm doing here, and nobody else was doing what I'm doing. And man, I got such a lesson in a lot of this stuff. And I came back from it was in Tampa Bay. I came back from Tampa Bay. I went to my COO and said, "Listen, we're changing everything." And so he's like, well, pick 3 things. You got like 30 things here. Pick 3 things. So we picked 3 things, changed it all, and now we are flowing like we wouldn't believe. Had a record year. And
so what were those 3 things that?
So the 3 things I changed were we changed our phone system. We went to CallRail and Ring Central. We got 2 lead managers, and we started doing KPIs on the amount of time from our leads that our leads came in to when we got to them. At that time, we were averaging almost 24 hours getting back to a lead.
Wow,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
and we've gone from over 24 hours and not doing anything on the weekend. Like if you came in on Friday after 5 o'clock, it didn't get touched until Monday. Now it's an average of 3 minutes 15 seconds. So a lot of those times are like instant, and there'll be times where, but 3 average from a lead being touched to when it comes in and being called back is 3 minutes and 15 seconds.
That's massive. So one question I have is, doing a lot of TV and radio, that's where all the iBuyers are, right? That's where they're advertising, right? They've got heavy money.
Yeah.
Have you found those guys to impact your ability to buy houses?
I love them. So the reason I say that, and people are surprised by it, because we're so different. I'm way more, my whole company, the guys that work for me, we're way more personal. We do the personal touch way more. I mean, I'm in your living room, and doing negotiating right there instead of negotiating over the telephone or on, online or whatever. I'll put my knowledge up against anybody that works for any of those companies.
Right.
You know, so it's just different, and they've made it more mainstream to sell your house this way.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started doing this, people were like, "You want what? My house is worth $250, and you're gonna offer me $200? Get out of my house! You're trying to screw me! You're blah, blah, blah." Now it's like, well, here's they've made it way more mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, here's the numbers. This is why 200 works, and but you have to get in front of them to do that. And I think that the credibility of the name brand recognition of myself, and also seeing what the other people are coming in at as well, because we're all going to be right around the same number for the most part.
Yeah.
So. They advertise on me. I advertise on them. If they're going to hook up, somebody going to click on them, they're going to see me. If somebody click on me, they're going to see them. So all three of us have an opportunity to buy a house. I put my money on me.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so
that doesn't mean I buy as many as them. I'll tell you that they buy a heck of a lot, but I bet you I make a lot more money than they do.
Yeah, I know that. All right, I see Elizabeth in here. Glad to see you're okay, Elizabeth. She was in an accident last night. I saw the picture of that truck. It was kind of crazy. So glad to see you're okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Carlton wants to know, Carlton Hooks, can you explain the flat fee thing? So what was the flat fee?
So basically, if somebody wanted to buy 123 East Main Street, and they were willing to pay $200,000 for that house, and
at the auction,
and they went for 190. They'd pay $193,000 for the house.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't pay the $200 for the house. Now there could be a lot of people at 196, 197, 198, 199, but that guy was at 200, so he's going to get it for whatever the final bid fee, whatever the final bid was, plus the fee of $3,000.
Yeah.
So that's what that means.
Cool. Yeah, and Kyle was on the show. Kyle Wilders.
Ah,
he had a bid service for a little bit as
got
well.
it. Yeah.
All right. So
he bought from us too. He was yeah. I think he was a client. Yeah, Kyle was a client for a while too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great guy.
Yep, for sure.
Let's see what else is there. ZZ says get his license soon. So that's awesome. Very cool. If you're in Phoenix, ZZ, let us know. All right. So not a whole lot of questions. So let me go back to this. So we talked about property wars, talked about posted properties, talked about radio and TV. So, we're in Phoenix. If this is not the guru capital of the world, I would love to know which city it is.
Yeah.
So, we mentioned earlier, we got Keegley, we got Pace, we got Kyle, right? We mentioned Carlos. A lot of guys in town here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the differentiating factor besides TV?
Listen, there's enough business to go around. What do we got? 5 million, 6 million people here now,
Mm-hmm.
and just growing like crazy.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to be prosperous and making a good living. I can't get to every house. They can't get to every house.
Right.
Everyone's going to get their fair share. A lot of us actually trade houses together. So
I know. We'll sell it to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. You worked with Templeton.
Yep.
Right. So. I guess another question is, you've seen, this whole upside and downside. I started in 07,
mm-hmm.
right? I came in optimistic. I'm going to conquer this industry.
Mm-hmm.
Took 13 years to figure out what I was doing.
Yeah.
But, you've seen all the ups and downs.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to prepare? So it's two-part questions. What are you doing to prepare for when things change? And what should a newer wholesaler do to prepare for that?
A couple of things. Number one, what I've seen with people that have, we have an ability, especially in this market, to make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen, though, is a lot of people will spend every last dime they get. For me, the reason when I said earlier,
in their business or personal?
Personally.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, their business. You got to watch your bottom line. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got to watch. There's no way, in heck, that I would be spending the amount of money I am on marketing right now if it was back in the day. But I also learned that I need to. You know, there's times where you need to turn that off completely, or very soon, or dial it back. You can't. And you can't expect the same. You can't have the same expectations if something's changing. And you know you're going from spending a certain amount of money and getting a certain return, and you're seeing 2, 3, 4 months go by, and that return keeps falling. You got to start looking around and go, okay, what's going on? Someone's moving my cheese here, and I got to figure out why to go back. But a lot of people will just continue to stick their head in the sand and do the same exact thing over and over while the market's compressing or going down or changing, and because they don't know any different. So figure out. How to weave in and out of traffic, so to speak, when problems arise, and be able to adapt. I've gone from trustees buying VAs and VA foreclosures and HUD foreclosures to going down to trustees sales to buying off of MLS to selling that business and doing posted properties and doing the being a disruptor, to going to direct to seller. So I've done the whole gamut because you got to go where the thing's going. What's next? I have no idea, but it'll be interesting to see because I know there will be a next for sure.
Right.
This is not going to stop. It's you only have a certain amount of time for anything, and then it's going to shift. So
Yeah.
Who knows what that next thing's going to be.
So for the newer guys, don't spend everything.
Don't spend everything. Another thing I was getting into, I had a lot of friends that bought big fancy cars and bought boats and all sorts of stuff and didn't save anything. I put all my money.
Didn't save anything.
Didn't save a lot. No, they might have bought a rental house here or there.
Yeah.
My whole first 20 years in business, I put it all in real estate. I shouldn't say all. Here's a funny story. I made a bunch of money on a house. I put $200,000 away, gave it to a stock market because the whole it was that .com era, where everyone's making all this money. Mm-hmm. So gave $200,000 to a stockbroker. In a year, he turned this $200,000 into $75,000. Down 100 and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked into his office one day and I said, "So what happened here? I see everything's doing really well, and we went from 200,000 to down to 75,000." He said, "Well, the company did really well, and I did really well. 2 out of 3 ain't bad." If you can believe that, it was a joke. He said it in jest.
Yeah.
But I took my money out the next day.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good joke, and I realized, man, why am I putting my fate of my money into somebody else's hands?
Mm-hmm.
I know what the heck I'm doing when it comes to real estate and investing. Why am I giving this guy money to do that? And and he's making commissions off me, and the companies their company's making commissions off me. I'm like, why don't I make commissions off me? So I stay in my lane now. I do my thing. I don't go and I don't buy land. I don't buy multifamily. I don't do this stuff. Every time I go out and try to do something different, I wind up losing. So I stay in my lane and realize I don't know a lot about this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to learn about real estate. I don't know a lot about the subject to stuff. I don't know a lot about land. I don't know a lot about commercial stuff. So I stay in my lane, and I realized that a long time ago. And as long as I stay in my lane, I'm pretty darn good. So I'm going to do that.
Makes total sense. Max Menez, my business partner, wants to know, what's the next big thing for Doug?
Well, we started a media company, so we're now buying commercials and doing that for a lot of the members of the collective genius around the country, because we have so much data on what works and what doesn't. We've been running because we've operated and bought houses in the Philadelphia area, into New Jersey, into Chicago, and L.A. and Phoenix and Tucson. So we have all this data of commercials that work, channels that work, what programs work, and we're able to really dial that data into going, okay, our money is best spent doing this. So we've gotten into more of the data of going through and really going down and what's the word I'm looking for? Burying down.
Yeah, diving deep.
Diving deep. There
Yep.
you go. And that's really helped. So we took it over ourselves about a year ago, and since then our cost per lead is significantly. I think it's gone down 30% since we took it over. Because we have all the data of every single commercial that we've played over the last 8 years.
Yeah. So can I be a customer in Phoenix?
Yeah, yeah. If you do anything besides real estate buying, yes.
All right. So Herman Suarez wants to know: do you see a dip coming?
Honestly, no. Let me tell you why. This is my opinion. Obviously, I have no idea what's going to happen. I did predict what was going to happen when we were going to lose in 2000. I think I called it in August of 2006, I said, is when I was going to stop everything as far as buying, and because I was buying a bunch of stuff for myself. Yeah. And I think I was off by like a month of when it started dipping. Right. But here's the reason I don't think it's going to go down right now. Because number one, interest rates are so low. All right. You saw that little hiccup last year, right around the beginning of the year, and when interest rates rose, I think there's a downward trend, and that's going to continue to go down. And there's pressure putting it that way. Number two, there's so many people, and I don't know if that's for here specifically. I'm just going to say for Arizona. Yeah. There's so, because it's so, it depends on where you're at in the country. There's so many people moving here, and there's so little inventory. We have what do we have, like less than 11,000 or
we're 11,009.
Yeah,
44 days of supply.
Yeah, I mean it's unheard of numbers. Yeah. Right. I mean it's crazy. So, and I think it's the same amount, by the way, in LA with twice as many people or 3 times as many people. So that's just insane to me. Yeah. So as inventory being the way it is, with the amount of people moving here, and there's really, if you were here in the 90s into the early 2000s, you had flagpoles up everywhere. Right, there was all these new builds going on. I mean, there's a lot of new building going on, but not as much as if you can remember back in the day of how much new inventory was coming on the market. I think there's a lot less, and it's because the price to build now is way higher than it used to be. The price of land is way higher than it used to be. So it's interesting. I don't think it's going to go down anything. In fact, I think it's going to go up another 7-8% this year. That was my prediction.
Oh, the predictions that we're making is double-digit appreciation this year.
Yeah, could be.
Warner Kuroga wants to know, what's your average deal size in Phoenix and in LA?
Okay, deal size is in our take on it, or
your fee.
Our fee. So I know exactly what it is. It is our average. In Phoenix is 11,900, and our average in California is 32,300.
So you should just double down in LA and leave Phoenix alone. Don't waste any more time in Phoenix. All right. So you're going because you're licensed, right? You're a former broker.
No.
No,
I'm not broker. I just own the company. Oh. No, I was the owner of the company. I wasn't a broker. I don't want anybody else's problems. I got enough of my own. So that's the deal. The broker deals with all the other people and stuff. I didn't want to deal with that.
Okay. So, you got your leads coming in. What percentage are purchases where you buy them? What percentages are you, assigning? What percentage are you assigning? What percentage are you flipping? What percentage are you listing?
Got it. So listings are completely separate. So I don't include those in my numbers. That's just gravy. So we wholesale most of the stuff we get. I'll keep usually about 3 or 4 a year for rentals, just for personal rentals. I try to increase my portfolio every year, and for the most part, we're wholesaling 95% of them. There's stuff that we keep that that I'll literally there's some houses where you don't have to do anything to them. If there's a house I don't have to do anything to, I'm just doing it myself. Put up the sign and do that. I do that. I don't know. We do about 12 a year ourselves. Myself. And then I keep another 3 or 4. That's not true. I have another partner that we keep another 6 or 7. So. Yeah, about 10 a year we'll keep and for ourselves, and then about 10 to 12 a year we'll do, and then the rest we wholesale out.
Gotcha. So you mentioned you have a partner.
Yes.
How long have you had a partner?
So I call him my partner. I own the business, but he does. We partner up on the west side. So Josh Barton, I don't know if you know him. He does all my West Valley stuff. I do all the East Valley stuff, and then we do a split on what he's able to get.
Gotcha.
We used to work together down in the Pinal County auctions, and he's been a good guy. You know, it's hard in this business, man. There can be some snakes, and when money gets involved, there's some people that can do some really not good things. Let's say.
I think there's a TV show about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. So Javar X wants to know. I think you mentioned this earlier, but what do you attribute your success to?
Just being able to adapt and to roll with the changes. You know, that is 100% the reason I'm able to do it. That, and you know, not as much now, but man, I was hungry when I first started in this business. I was hungry. I wanted to make it in this world, and I was willing to work. And too many people nowadays, you know, they'd rather throw money at it, or, you know, they hope to get something, or they want to get something, but they're not willing to do to get something. And I was willing to do to get it. I was willing to go and be in the office at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah. I was willing to work until 9, 10 o'clock at night. Not every day, but, you know, when I was getting started, I mean, I had a family, man, and I didn't want to, you know, I had kids really early, and I wanted to have a roof over their head. You know, I didn't come from much. My family, my parents were not very well to do, and so you know, that I wanted the nicer things in life. Yeah. And I was willing to work to get them.
I think that's the way I describe it to most people. It's like most people want to be successful. Like, I don't want a six pack. Like, man, I want a six pack.
Yeah. But no, man, I want a six pack too, but I got a keg, bro.
But I'm not putting in the work.
I did not put in any of the work.
I'm not putting in the work to get the six pack.
I do for a certain period of time, but not the work that needs to be done on a continuous basis, which is exactly it. I mean, it's very, very similar to the gym and what's important to you. Yeah.
Marcus Staggy wants to know, what's your best negotiating tactics in the living room?
Saying no.
Simple enough. Chris Voss, right?
Yeah. So I literally, I don't know who that means. I don't read a lot of.
Chris Voss is like, just, you know, saying no is giving the option to say no.
Got it. Yeah. What I do, and it's true, and I kind of found this out accidentally, was I'm like, I mean, I understand that you're not going to want to do this. Mm-hmm. You're not going to want to do this, you know, with this number. Like, well, what number? Like, give me the number. I'm like, you're not. I'm embarrassed to even give it to you. I know you're not going to want to do it. And I give them the number. Like, yeah, you're right. I can't do that number, but I can do like $2,000 over that. I'm like, okay. So I started using that a little bit, and
it's a takeaway.
And it worked out. It's worked out pretty good. So yeah,
that's awesome. So Leo Guar wants to know, what is your plan for ad spend for 2020?
What's my plan for what? I'm sorry?
Your ad spend, your marketing spend.
It's probably going to be a little bit higher. We'll probably add a couple things. I'm always trying to add and add and subtract, take away, and kind of test things. We'll probably add another, I don't know, 10% a month to the budget, and just see where it goes. The thing that really intrigues me, and I've been burned by it before. I'm a sucker for anybody that comes and say, "Oh, I got AI to do it." I've lost so much money with guys that say they have AI stuff that's gonna revolutionize everything.
It's gonna change everything.
And this AI. You sons of guns, you got me, man. I mean, I've spent so much money on these guys that tell me they have AI. So I've had that conversation this morning as well. I go through all this stuff all the time. Another thing is when you get bigger, you can get complacent, and that happened to me. You know, where I have all these other people running my business, and next thing you know, your business falls on its face because you're not there overseeing it and seeing what's going on. So instead of just being like I'm the man, the big CEO, and don't have to work, I wind up going out, and that's why why I still go into living rooms, and I'm still there going over all the numbers. And it's important to have good people around you too. My COO I've been friends with for 30 years, and I trust him like my brother. So it helps to have really good people as well.
I can't stress that enough. Having the right people around you.
Yep.
So
the lights are hot, bro.
What is your biggest struggle today?
My weight. No. My biggest struggle. Oh gosh. I would say that's a good question. What's my greatest struggle? I never think I'm good enough. I never think we're good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated very easily when things don't look right the way it should. I'm not very good in systems. Like I have certain people that are really good at systems that work with me. I'm good at making deals happen and being the guy, and I know a lot of people, and we don't. It's hard for me to work in a system, and but I'm doing it. I'm trying to anyway. Our CRM is Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm a multi-million-dollar company, and I didn't know how to work my own CRM up until a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and then a year ago I was like, I've got to learn how to do this, because they're like, oh, just look, it's in Salesforce. Everything's in Salesforce. I'm like, yeah, I don't even know.
It's overwhelming.
I don't even know my login. So
if you've never seen it before, it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and that's why I remember going in. I spent, before Salesforce, we had another one. I spent $10,000 for a week to try to figure out how the heck to use it, and I don't think I logged in after that. So just being able to you can get a little complacent with how things are going, and depending on other people. But when you can really dial down into that stuff, it makes a huge difference. I was able to make changes over this last year because of my knowledge of Salesforce. Now I can get in and navigate and know exactly where all my numbers are. That's why I'm able to tell you when my KPIs are off the bat, because I'm in there every day, and I got dashboards and everything else hitting me in the face, blinking, going, hey, hey, you're only at 98% of your goal, or you're at 103% of your goal, or all this stuff. It's pretty cool, what you can do when you set that thing up.
That's awesome. Is there a book you've gifted more than any other?
Yes. My own.
You have a book
that I've gifted. Yeah, I do. But the book that most was for me, that meant the most to me, was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I love that book. In fact, I've read it, and I have it on a book on tape, and I make sure to listen to it every couple of years just to remind myself of some of the stories. And I don't think it doesn't get old. And it's so important. We live in such a different time now than when I grew up. It's there was nothing back. There was no cell phones back then. There was no internet. There was no. I mean, you had to actually talk and communicate with people. And nowadays, half the people won't pick up your phone call. If they don't know who you are, and
right.
If somebody knocks on the door, you're hiding instead of jumping up and going to grab it. I mean, back when I was a kid, it was like, someone's at the door, yeah. Now it's like, someone's at the door, hide, don't say a word, shushy. Such a different world, man. It's crazy.
It is, totally. So I'm going to let you think about one last thought you want to leave the listeners with while I make a few quick announcements. Guys, like I said before, we got some amazing feedback from our workshop that Max and I did, 2.5-day event. They were surprised by the level of transparency, because we go over every part of our business. So if you want to double your business, go to disruptors.com, see if the workshop makes sense for you. And next week, we've got Mr. TTP, Brent Daniels, and Todd Toback coming back for, they're going to be making an announcement. So check it out next week. Got Brent Daniels and Todd Toback. All right, last thoughts.
Last thoughts from me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me something.
No. What do you want? Like, what's something that the listeners need to know?
Oh, you know what? Real estate is the best industry that I can even imagine. More millionaires have been made from real estate than any other industry.
Yeah.
I mean, what's 80% of all millionaires made it from?
The quote's 90.
Is it 90?
That's the quote. I don't think anyone's ever been able to verify it.
Yeah, sure. But and it's such a rewarding experience, such a rewarding thing to do. Growing rentals, even growing rentals. People are that are make a certain amount of money, and they're like, "How can I invest with you?" I'm like, "Don't invest with me. Go invest with you and go buy yourself a rental. Save up your money to go buy a rental." That's exactly what I did. I saved every freaking penny that I bought. I lived off of peanuts, and saved my money to continue to buy houses. My goal when I was a kid, when I was 25, I told myself I'm going to buy. Yeah. When I was 25, I told myself I'm going to buy 10 houses because that's all you could buy and be under the limit for
mortgages.
Yeah, for mortgages. Yeah. So I was going to buy 10 houses, put them on 15-year notes, and by the time I was 40, I'd be a multi-millionaire, and I'd have $10,000+ a month coming in monthly income, and I wouldn't have to work ever again. That worked out really good, and I still have 9 out of those 10 houses, believe it or not. I bought 10 houses over the next year and a half.
Yeah.
All of them paid off and then some.
So you had your vision and then you executed your vision.
That's correct.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's correct. And I was flipping houses to buy rentals. So I would flip a house, make the $20,000 on it, whatever I would make, take half of it to flip another house and put half of it toward buying another rental.
Right.
Until I got my 10 houses. And then I tried to figure out a way to get more houses, and now I got a nice little nest egg for my kids will be able to enjoy when I'm been a long time away from that, but when I'm gone they'll be able to enjoy that.
Awesome. I think that's a great message. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, my man. Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Disruptors. Yeah, see, we real estate disruptors.